Hello and welcome to the DockerCon 2019 Open Source Summit. I'm Laura, I'll be your host today. So let's take a moment and welcome Cal and Sebastian to the stage. Cal, Sebastian. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Kind of intimate setting, very nice. Welcome and thank you for making time to join us this morning. As you know, working in the open, our relationship with you guys is very near and dear to our hearts. That's where our roots lie. I spoke about that a little bit yesterday and the last time we had a DockerCon in Barcelona. So I just have a few very introductory things to share, very introductory thoughts to share. I'll just take a few minutes to do that and hand over to Sebastiaan here, who you know probably much better than you know me. So the first thing that I'd like to, and I have one particular thought to leave you with about one of the things that perhaps we would like to do a little bit more in a concerted fashion going forward, right? So just kind of food for thought, and if you guys think that's a good idea, then that's something that I'd love to, connect with a few of you after the fact, and perhaps, Sebastiaan can help make that happen. And that's to do with security, but let's come back to that one, okay? So the first thing that I'd like you to know, everything I said yesterday, were most of you, did you get a chance to attend the keynote yesterday? Okay, good. So everything I said about, our commitment to working with the open community, making a significant, meaningful contribution that is not just for the sake of, really not for any other reason other than we really do see a virtuous cycle, right? And the thing that I wanted to share with you guys to make this a little bit perhaps crisper and more meaningful in your minds is it's a little bit unfortunate. My perspective is it's a little bit unfortunate that this isn't crystal clear as to why collaborating in the open is a good thing and does not need to be at odds with any given company's commercial goals. Okay? So that's kind of the way I see it. I believe, and Sebastiaan will keep me honest here, I'm a very strong proponent of that at Docker. As Docker CTO and the person who heads engineering at Docker, you should know where I stand. I think that's only fair. And so this is not a notional thing. It's not because of good optics or anything of that sort. Collaborating on primitives in the open is not only smart, it leads to better software. It leads to things that are foundationally more stable because a much larger number of minds are able to work on something to make that happen, right? It's really that simple. And so for us, the way this, of course, will continue to manifest is we will continue to be dedicated to having a community edition of Engine, okay? That will be in the open, just the way it is today. The engine itself is obviously, a composition of open source. So all of the work that we do on the primitives, we compose and we present that, as you fully well know, as the community edition of Engine. And then on top of that, some of which we touched on over the last 2 days in the 2 keynotes, and it shows up in many parts of the sessions. We do a significant amount of work on top of that that is really relevant and important to enterprise use cases. So this might be around time to value, it might be around additional security controls, governance, or particular workflows that are more relevant to enterprises working in large groups on their commercial needs, right? I hope that makes sense. So that really is, in a nutshell, how that cycle will continue to work. We will be responsible about the projects that are in the open right now, which you are fully aware of, that currently fall under the umbrella of, let's say BuildKit and things of that nature. And even as we explore new areas where Docker will participate and collaborate, that will not change. So that was one. The second thing that I'd like you to know, I think you heard this in Steve's keynote yesterday. We feel very privileged and very fortunate to be able to make this kind of a contribution. And again, look, I just want to be very authentic and very candid with all of you. We are going to try to be a company that is not notional about the things that we say. okay? And I would like you to know that I expect you to hold me personally accountable for that. And of course, all the very talented teammates who work in the open, we will not say one thing and do something else. We will try and be open in the way in which the commitments that we make, and when you feel that we are deviating from that and we're doing something different, then our voices, our representatives in the open community will be the first port of call, or I will be personally. Okay? And I can say that with a great deal of confidence because we do not have a hidden agenda there. And I just want you to know that, right? So when we make a commitment like this, we will sincerely try. And as Steve says, this kind of a thing, making a contribution that goes beyond just commercial goals or goes beyond being a technology company, is the only thing that over a long period of time will be Docker's lasting contribution, right? Did we make a little dent on the universe that went beyond bits and bytes and making money? And many of us at Docker, including the leadership team, starting from Steve downwards, truly believe that. And Steve shared a personal story yesterday, which really is where this comes from. We're really not coming at it from any other angle. The last thing I wanted to say before I hand over to Sebastiaan here. I spoke a little bit about security yesterday and how serious we are about that. So here's the thing, right? Security is an excellent example of where work in the open on the primitives is a smart thing to do. So that's sort of my perspective, okay? Whether it be like enhancing the current protocols, enhancing the primitives, the kind of encryption that we use, working on the encryption algorithms themselves, the security schemes that we utilize in the platform, all of the above, right? So I would like you to know that a part of my job is to ensure that we have a robust, healthy security team, a set of goals and an operation within Docker engineering. So that is an evolving thing that will continue to happen in an even more concerted way than it did before, because when you get a nudge from the outside, like happened to us last week, it becomes that much more front and center in your mind. Not that it wasn't before, but it's now like if there's one thing that's burnt into the forefront of my mind, it is that, right? So I will use every avenue at my disposal to ensure we place laser focus on this. Again, I'm not being notional. The reason I'm mentioning it here is, like I said, certain work on that done in the open, on the primitives, is, I think, a smart thing to do. We'll end up in a better place that will benefit also people outside of Docker, all right? So with that, Sebastiaan, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you very much for having me here, and thank you for giving us your time.
Thank you. Okay, so again, welcome to the DockerCon 2019 Open Source Summit. I'm hoping you had a great DockerCon so far, still have some energy left. I'm really excited about the announcements that were made during the keynotes and how the foundation of all of those is in open source. Without open source, Docker would not have been where we are right now. And there's many people to thank for that. And first of all, I would like to thank the maintainers of the open source projects. These are just a few of them. The maintainers worked tirelessly on getting PRs merged, getting new contributors to get our code into our code base, and just making an overall great product altogether. But more importantly, last year we had over 200 new contributors to our open source projects. And this is really great. I really love people that take a plunge and do their first contribution. These are just, again, some of them. These are just people that contributed to the engine and the CLI code base. But there's many more open source repositories we have. And it's daunting to start contributing because you start doing things in the open. And it may be that you are already familiar with open source and work on a different project and start contributing to a new one. You need to get used to the workflow and the new repository or whatnot, and that's really great. If you're new to open source and have not yet contributed, I really recommend watching these two talks. I don't think the videos are available already, but I linked to the slides. and they give a nice introduction to contributing and all around open source. So I'm here today to just do a short announcement about what we're going to be doing today. What's on our agenda? So you might want to take a picture of this because I think the times on the printed version were slightly off. Overall today, we're going to be having a couple of tracks, parallel sessions, and as you might have noticed, they're quite long. That is because we think that open source is all about collaboration. We want today to be a bit more informal than the main conference, have a chance to meet with other people, have a chat. So we split all the sessions in two parts, whereas the first part will be a presentation, and the second part will give you the chance to meet up with other people and have bursts of feather sessions or discussions in smaller groups. Also, I think it's good to say, feel free to jump between sessions because it's always difficult to pick. And especially the second part, there will be smaller groups discussing, so just walk around, go to a different room if you think that's more useful to you. So I'll go slightly through the sessions we have today. We'll start at 10 with a session on security, and there's going to be 3 topics: securing the supply chain, policy and authorization, and securing container runtimes. These are pretty interesting topics, and I definitely recommend going there if you're interested in security. There's a lot to be discussed there and a lot of opportunities to make security for containerization even better. In parallel, we have Compose and Docker app. As you may know, Compose has become a very valuable tool for many developers in their whole workflow. And it evolved from a tiny project that became Docker Compose and is now evolving to even more advanced things, such as Docker app, which uses the Docker Compose format as well, and allows you to share applications, publish them, push them to a registry, and there's all kind of developments going on. After that, there will be a lunch, so have a nice break, and we'll continue with building images. So there will be a session on BuildKit. Again, 3 talks on that about BuildKit as in general, the new features that were added, because BuildKit is the foundation of the next generation builder in Docker, but it's also a standalone open source project. So it's not only useful inside Docker, but also outside of that. And we'll show you what new developments were in BuildKit. Some of those you may have seen during the keynotes, because the whole BuildX presentations were using BuildKit. Also, we'll show you how to create a custom front end for BuildKit, because BuildKit is not only about Docker files, but you can create all kinds of builders with the same backend. And finally, there will be a talk about running BuildKit rootless. Rootless is really a hot topic right now, and many people are interested in this, so definitely recommended to go and see that. At 12:30, there will be a session about service meshes. There's been some testing and benchmarking of different variants of service meshes. They will be presenting a tool that does the benchmarking and discuss the results of those tests. Also at 12:30, there's going to be a session on SwarmKit. David and Drew will be talking about recent improvements in SwarmKit, but also future directions. There's plans to move Compose and Stacks server-side. This is very difficult to implement, and there's a lot of interaction still going on. So we would definitely invite you to take part of that discussion and see what direction we can be heading. But also it's going to be about integrating container storage interface into SwarmKit, which is definitely interesting to many of you. There's going to be a session on CNAP, or Cloud Native Application Bundles. I think that's going to be a panel, but I'm not exactly sure. There's going to be a panel and room for discussion there. I'm not too familiar myself with the whole topic, but I see Chris is there, and I saw many other experts being present, so that's a good thing to go to. Containerd. As you may know, Containerd is now the runtime for Docker, and it's not only used in Docker, but it can also be used outside of Docker and to directly drive Kubernetes as a runtime. This session will go through how the whole Containerd architecture is, how Containerd manages images, runs containers, but it's also going to be discussing about running Containerd on Windows, which is a really recent development and will be used hopefully in the nearby future. There's going to be talks about running Kubernetes on top of Containerd using the CRI interface, which is built into Containerd. And let me see, I think that's it, sorry. We'll have a session on Kubernetes, and topics will be about the container storage interface, building stateful applications on Docker Enterprise with Rook, Windows support again, and deploying Istio as an ingress controller. And finally, at 2:30, there will be a session on serverless. So this will be a panel again, talking about serverless. There will be demos and a Q&A session, as well as discussions in smaller groups. And I think by then, you will be probably very tired and happy that it's all over. Okay, I hope you have a great day today. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and I'll be around. And I see many of the maintainers are around already, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Does anyone have questions about today or about open source in general? Okay. Oh, here we go.
This one.
Hello.
Hello.
Just wanted to know if all the sessions will be recorded, because I've got some conflicts.
Right.
I won't be able to attend everything.
Yes, I just got confirmation they will all be recorded, so you can watch them back.
Thanks.
Every time. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So it does take a little bit to gather all the slides from the speakers, but once we do, we'll put them on SlideShare, the Docker SlideShare, and then we'll tweet and we can send out an email to all attendees as well with all the slides. We'll also be sending out an email with links to all the videos, which will go on YouTube.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, enjoy your day.